So I am going to take each of these vertical rows, and this one as well, and you'll see that I don't have a lot of batting left, but that's okay. And I like that the batting is kind of in the middle of this block, not block, but this whole row. And so I'm just going to turn each row on both sides, turn it right sides together, and I'm going to stitch, with my 1/4" seam, just the tops, not the batting or anything, just the top, all the way down. But when I come down here, since this row comes longer than the quilt top, I'm going to stop about maybe an inch away. So from here to here, I'm not going to sew, because it'll be like, a partial seam kind of a deal for when I fill this in with, I have no idea what. I mean, maybe I'll put a row of flying geese down here, but, going the other way instead of this way, going perpendicular, like this way. So that's what I'll do now. And after I sew this top on, then I'll get a strip of batting and butt it up, because this is going to be the width. That's been my whole quest, is to get this wide enough so that I can quilt in the hoop just on the bottom row or just on the top row. But I wanted to make sure I got enough width in, the width that I want. Now this will be, I think it's going to be about 58 inches wide once I sew these on. I think that's what I calculated. So I'll sew those 2 rows on, then I'll butt up a piece of batting here and zigzag it. I will also add more backing, so I'm going to have to add a whole nother strip of backing, but I'm just going to attach it to the backing only, right sides together. So once I have everything added, I'll go ahead and quilt in the hoop, this area here. I'm probably going to put, I just thought of something. I'm going to want to put another border on the ends here, because I don't want this to go up into my binding. I'll add the border at the very end once I've added on more to the top. So we'll just wait. But when I add my batting, I'm going to add extra batting and extra backing so that when I do come to quilt in the hoop on this top piece, I want to make sure that I have enough fabric out to the side here to hoop. And but for right now, I'm just going to sew the vertical rows right sides together. I thought I would show how I go about pinning and sewing on this vertical row. I already sewed on the other one, and you can see I just kind of accordion folded the quilt, and I put it on my, this is one of my sewing my pressing tables. It's right in front of my Janome machine. So I went ahead and pinned this. Now this one I have to sew from the bottom, And the reason why is because I want this to be on top so that when I come to my points, I can make sure that I cross over, you know, the intersection so this point stays a point. And here is not as important, but there's another one. So because I want this to be on top, I have to start from the bottom. So I have to put a lot of pins because I'm not using a walking foot. And when I come down to the top, I want to make sure that this stays flush with the top. But you can see the batting is still here, but I obviously am not pinned to it. Then and drag it onto my table that's right here, and I'll just pull it all the way down. Or I'll just kind of have over my shoulder, my left shoulder. I'll just let it rest on my left shoulder as I'm sewing this. Okay, so here is one of the vertical rows. That's actually the left side. And so this is the top. And I did go ahead and I first finger pressed the seams towards this border. So I finger pressed it, then just like Jordan Fabrics, Donna Jordan taught us, finger pressed it towards the border, and then I pressed it with a dry iron, and then when it was flat, squirted it with steam. And I don't know if you recall, but this is my new iron that I love. It was like $30. I think I have a link for the more updated one. I think it's maybe around $40, but I'm not sure. I'll put it down below. But it's got a ceramic plate, and when you squirt the steam, it's down here, so it's more convenient. So I leave it on dry, no steam, you can see, and then, you know, press it dry and then give it a shot from below for the steam once it's flat. And then the up here, the trigger for the water, when you have a tough fold in your fabric, you know, that's still up on top, but it's nice because there's only one button up here, and the most convenient button is down here. So it's just unbelievable that something that cheap could be so great. So when I did iron it, I did not iron the batting, so I tucked the batting out of the way just because, I don't know, I've ironed my batting at other points in this process, but I just figured when you can avoid it, it probably is better. I mean, it's going to fluff up anyways in the wash, but so that's this side, and I am going to do the other side now. So I'll be back. So I went ahead and laid out my scrap piece of batting, and just to see where I'm at as far as, you know, future hoopings and so on. And plus I'm going to have a border here. I kind of don't think I'm going to have a wide border though, since I already have this inside. I really think I'm going to put like a 2.5 inch border here. I don't know for sure. And if I do, or when I do put the border, I'm going to use this fabric. I don't have a lot of it, and it's going to be pieced a lot, but I don't really have any other fabric that's going to match this quilt. You know, it's just a bunch of my scraps, so I even tried this yellow, but it didn't look good. So, and I also noticed that this batting that's down is completely crooked. You could see here, it comes in at a curve. So the way I cut it was completely off. So I'll have to slice down the center. You know, I'll take everything away and just slice a straight line down the center of both of them, and then peel off the extra. It's kind of like what tile or linoleum or vinyl floor guys do when they cut the vinyl. So, and for a minute there, when I saw where my quilting had ended here, you know, all of this here is quilted. I thought, before I put the stencil on, I thought, oh, I have about an inch overlap. That means I'm hooping right here and I'm going to damage my ends. Well, then I put this down, the ghost, and this is still my old ghost because it has the double line, the double back stitching here, but it's basically the same. But anyways, when I lined up this with the previous stitching, just to kind of see, and then I realized, oh yeah, that's right. This doesn't take up my whole hoop this way. I had forgotten. It does most of the way this way. It's 7.5 tall. So I think I'm still okay hooping right here. I'm not going to damage the fabric, and I'm not going to hoop it tight, especially since I'm on the end here. I'll cut my batting, cut through the 2 layers, zigzag it, and I'll show that. And then I'll add more backing, and then we'll quilt. So that's the plan. I'm not sure if I did a video on this block. This is Eleanor Burns' block, and I swear I cannot find the video where she actually did it, but there's a video where her son is doing it, and it involves a partial seam, but it's easy. Honestly, it's easy. When you sew this flying geese to this square, you line it up with this square right here is where you line it up, like that. And then, but you only sew like this far. You leave about an inch. And then the rest, you just put these on, and these on the flat sides. They just line up. But each time you do it, you press your seam allowances towards the outside. Well, I don't know about that. I'm thinking maybe I did it wrong. I'm going to have to look back at the video, because there's a lot of bulk right there. And I'm trying to think if there would be just as much bulk if the seams went towards the center. I don't know. Because down here, you know, the triangle with it being pushed that way, it almost makes too much bulk right there. But then it would be just as bad down here going this way. But at least that's interior already, but still. So I don't know. I'll have to look back and see. But it really wasn't hard at all, and it's just so cute. It's just so cute. So that's the plan. So you can kind of see how far off my batting is, how crooked it is on this long table. So it's still not overlapped enough for me to slice through the two of them. So what I did, just so you know, before I start slicing, I lined up the batting on one of the lines on my table up here where it's already sewn, and then I tried to follow that line all the way down just so that I could get some sort of straightness going. You know, this was the top. I took and I folded back the top, and part of the backing is folded under right here. This is all the backing that I have left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep overlapping this piece of batting until I close up this gap down here. So we'll see. I'm still trying to line this up. And remember, I'm just going to be butting the batting up to each other eventually, so I don't need a whole lot of overlap down there. So smooth that out, and then once I have it to where I think I'm good and I can pretty much work with that down here, I'm going to bring the top back before I cut, because I want to make sure I still have extra batting here for when I do put on my sashing. Now there isn't going to be a lot of batting here, but I'm just working with what I have. The other thing I thought is I could just make my sashing wider than the final sashing, and that way I could hoop everything better and so on. But then that wastes fabric. So I'm good with that. It's enough. And like I said, I'll just work with it. I may even take the end here, and once I do have the sashing on, I may serge the edge of the sashing. I don't know. I'll see when I get there. So for right now, I know I'm okay. I'll just let it go. And then I have two rulers here, two long rulers. And I know I want to cut a straight line. And as I'm cutting this line, let's see, the line I cut, it's got to be overlapped by both pieces. So what I should really do now before I cut it is make sure that this straight line here lines up with, not lines up, but is perpendicular to the ruler. That way I'll have a nice square 90-degree cut. So let's just see if I can work that out. Either way, I'm going to waste batting. Either I waste this batting or this batting. It would be nice if I cut it in a place where there's no seam. So if I cut it down farther, say on this line right here, then let's see, I'll kind of overlap it. That would be, I can feel it right here. So that would be right here. So that's kind of nice. It's going down where these flying geese are, which I kind of like that because it's busy here and it's not being going to be butted up in a smooth area like this, so you won't really see the batting here. So, but let's see if I can continue this on down. I'll just use this ruler and I'll butt it up against this. And then I'll take this one. So it does look like this line here still cuts through both layers. So this is how they do it when they lay linoleum or vinyl flooring down. They cut through the 2 layers and then you peel off the scraps. So I'm good with that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. Let me slide that down. And I'll just take this away and I'll use my weights. I'm just going to put this weight on here for a minute. Actually, I wonder, I might have enough. So let's see. I might be able to slide it now. Barely. Let's see. I can slide this one up. There. So 2 rulers did it for me. That's good. And I'll put this weight on here. Oh, I guess I didn't get all the way down. That's okay. And now up here, I don't want to damage my blade. So even if I don't get through that, because I just put in a new blade, I'll cut it with a scissor if it doesn't work. So I'll just take this and okay, so this part here. That I can get. So there's that scrap. If I take these off, and these have to, and if I roll this one back, here's this scrap. And then these 2 are completely perfectly ready to be zigzagged. Now, I hate to have that I have to move this. It's such a bummer. Okay, so I'll go to the machine now and zigzag this. On the widest zigzag stitch, I think I've shown this before, but I don't totally recall. I'm going to try to fold it in such a way that I don't have to refold it when I get to the machine. I've been like doing things accordion style. It seems to work great. And I haven't done the other side of the batting yet. I'll just do this one first. So that's good. Now for this, I don't know. We'll just try our best. It's not really going to stay that great, but it's good. I could actually put the rulers on top of it. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. It might actually help. Okay, so I am hoping you could see this. I took off the tape to move it down, and now it's not sticky anymore. So I have my ditch foot on. It's got a little blade. Can't really take it off because I can only have one hand now. There's a little black blade going down the center, stitching the ditch foot. And I have the quilt accordion folded, and it's over my shoulder, the left side of it. So, and this, I'm going to do a zigzag. It's 7 millimeters wide, and it's got a stitch length of 2.5 mils. That means the zigzag points, the points of the zigzag are 2.5 mils from each other. So I have the ditch going right in between where I'm butting them up. And once I get going, I'll remove this tape. And I'm just kind of holding them together. And I'll slide the left part of the quilt as I go. So I've got my hand kind of pushing up on the quilt. And then I'm just letting it feed. But now I have to give it some more slack. So now I don't even need the tape now, really, but it was just to get it down here. So trying not to stretch it, and just kind of let the blade go in between there. It is kind of nice having the tape. But I think you get the idea. And remember, this does not fall on a seam of the quilt top. And we haven't added the back yet. So this is just so that we could do the sides of the quilt and make it wide, so that I'll have my final width established, and then I'll just work from the top and the bottom after, once I've quilted the sides. So this is normally what you would be doing if you were just working one row at a time. Even if you're working from the middle out, or top to bottom, or bottom to top. And of course you can do this with any pattern. Even if you're doing a point-to-point pattern where you are stitching diagonal rows, you can put the batting on in a diagonal fashion, diagonal rows, just as you're putting the quilt together. And you don't have to do just one row at a time. You can do a couple like I did. I did several rows at a time when I started. I am glad I taped it because then the cut that I made is really precise. Tape is coming off down here, but we're almost done. And then I'll let that kind of slide on the table. And I'm going to lift this up, the remainder, the best I can. With the quilt, whenever I have it rolled up like this accordion, when I'm adding the backing or the top, I usually grab this, what I rolled up, and use that to help me take the weight off so that it will feed better. So that's what I'll do now, even though it's kind of hard now because I'm having to control the batting as well. It's not bad. That seems to work better with my hand here and then moving the batting. Now I can kind of just slide it with my arm and my elbow because I'm almost at the end. I can even grab it a little bit. I hate to pull it and stretch it. All the tape got all over the place. Oh well. Threads all over. It does work better when you keep your hand down here. That's what I'm finding. And then I thought that this stitch made a lock. Let's see if I go back. I think it's just gonna, oh there it is. So it made a knot right on the batting. Okay. So there's the stitch. So it's nice and wide. And I have had my presser foot pressure on just the regular pressure. And it's very nice. It's not real dense or anything. You know, it's not puckering. I thought about using a one of those braiding feet, or was that the chenille foot? But I believe I did try it because that has like a bar in the middle, and also a blind hem foot has the same bar. This foot is the G foot. It has a little black bar in the middle, and that black bar can stop it from puckering. Well, I don't know. It's actually about the same. I mean, it might be slightly flatter, but I kind of don't want it pushed down and indented. I do want it to still be fluffy, so I don't know. I thought about using the zigzag that goes in several times, but then that would really flatten it, and that's unnecessary. You know, because I worried about it bunching up, but it's not. And if you lower your tension, now my tension was set on standard, so if you lower it, right now it's at 4.5. If you lowered it to like 3.5, it would really be much looser. Okay, so I put the tension on 3.5 instead of 4.5, and I have the ditch foot back on. Let's just see, because I forgot about that, about the tension. That might be better. I do like using this foot just because the blade is bigger. That is better, actually. So it just seems a lot smoother and looser. Stitches aren't getting pulled. You can actually see down here, you know, that you can see the loop of thread is really loose. That's why you can see it there. It's not a tight knot. And it looks like that would be on a zigzag, I'm not sure. Well, yeah, that would be the top thread being pulled around because it's loose. So, and that's fine. So I'll make a note of that. So my stitch length is 2.5. That's the distance between each of these points is 2.5 mils. And the width is 7 mils from there to there. And then the tension, instead of 4.5, is at 3.5. And my foot pressure is the same. It's on 3 in my machine, Janome MC 4900. So that's for the batting. So now I'll attach some backing to that same area, and I'm going to have the backing stick out at least a couple inches more, just so I can keep an eye on it when I'm hooping and give it a tug. So put the backing on, attaching it only to the back, and then I'll have to do the same process to the other side of the quilt. You know, put more batting and then put more backing. And then we'll be ready to quilt some more in the hoop. All right.